Welcome back to MOMnation Unscripted. Now, a word from our sponsor.
Hi, I am Kelly with Olarty, and it is our mission to get toxin-free products into every home and more money into more people's pockets. 8 years ago, we were moms who couldn't stop sharing education on real food, gut health, and fermenting. Over the years, we started paying attention to not only what we put in our bodies, but also what we put on our bodies. Now, as movement makers, we are on a mission to show you how you and your family can live a toxin-free lifestyle. Follow us on Instagram at kelly.liston and at Tamara Manley, and email us at olartyblog@gmail.com to connect.
Oh, good.
We're live.
What's up? That happened
Katie?
quick.
I know. I'm just like, whoa.
Usually we're waiting and waiting and waiting,
Yes.
and then all of a sudden it goes live.
I'm looking down, all of a sudden I'm like, oh shoot, here we are. Yes. I go. How are you, Katie?
I am doing pretty well this week. Over the weekend, I escaped a little bit. Shh, don't tell anybody. And we went to Munns Park, just camping for a couple of days, nothing too crazy. Of course, I'm attached to my phone constantly, but I got to put it down for a few minutes. You'll be proud of me.
I am proud.
But it was a cornhole tournament.
Oh, fun.
Shush.
Yeah, I don't play cornhole.
Did you compete?
Not me, no, but my husband did. And some friends of ours that we went with did. So it was pretty fun. It was like 6 hours of cornhole. Little did I know we had like the Arizona State Cornhole champions in the game. Yeah, I know. I should have got some autographs. I didn't. But anyway, so that was my weekend. So cornhole tournament, had some great food, hung out with some people. And then I saw all these beautiful, well, I haven't seen the photos yet, but I saw like these awesome pre-photos to your photo shoot. So tell me all about it. What's going on?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so I'm working on my rebrand, and it's true crime themed, of course, because why wouldn't you do brand strategy with true crime? It seems like a logical connection there. So we went out and we did so many amazing, crazy things. Okay. Do you want to know the most disturbing part of this entire thing? We went to Papago Park, and I'm in stilettos and a little cocktail dress, and I have a fake body that's wrapped in a tarp that I'm burying. And but here's the crazy part, right? Nobody stopped. No one gave a weird look. No police came. The time to bury a body is in the middle of the day in a public park.
Right.
In front of everyone.
In front of everyone. Nobody questions it.
You know, that it's because confidence goes a long way, right? You just get out there and you start burying a body like you're supposed to be out there doing it. And like no one's going to question you, right?
I love that.
It's so true. I was like, holy cow. Like, how come nobody's even been like, is everything okay here? No, like not even just like nothing. So
nobody just nonchalantly walked by and said, hey, need help?
Nope. Nobody offered to help me bury a body. I don't get it.
Rude.
But rude. It was so amazing. Like my photographer actually got in waist deep in the water to be able to catch the perfect shot. And I got a Marilyn Monroe look. I literally had a Marilyn Monroe dress, and she showed me some of the pictures, and I could cry. They were so perfect. So
I'm excited. So when are you going to do the drop on the public, or do friends get to see it first? Because I've been waiting.
You've been waiting. I haven't seen them yet. And so I'm going to see them on Friday. And so I'm actually going to slowly drop them this time. Last time I was like, look at all my pictures, guys. So I'm actually going to do it every time I release a product, I'm going to release the photo that goes with it, and until I build it up.
Very cool.
So
well, anyway. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm excited. So I'm really excited to see how they turned the ones that she let me look at, the back of her camera. There's so much drama, so much drama. So I cannot wait. I'm just dying.
And especially when all you've seen is, just on the back of the camera, like
Oh,
as soon as you get that on a computer and like blow it up, it's just going to be that much more incredible. So
uh-huh.
how
Right, and
exciting.
edited, and yeah, that's awesome.
Yes. So,
Was that the
I,
only exciting thing, or what else you
um,
got?
well, I don't know, but that's probably the most exciting thing. Oh, I mean, I'm running a challenge in my group right now, so that's going really well and fun, and yeah,
Tell us about
that's
it.
about my life.
What
So
challenge?
I've developed the brand identities. So there's different identities based on the vibe of your brand, or based on whether you how people are attracted to your brand. So it's a grid basically. So there's these 12 different personalities, and you get to learn how to brand yourself based on the personality that matches you the closest.
That
So
sounds cool.
it's so fun. Like, it is the most fun thing that I think I've ever done so far. Up to
So do you have to like, how do you opt in? You have to get a ticket, or is it
yeah.
like,
So if you go to my personal page, if you go to my cover photo and click on it, there's a link right there for you to be able to opt in for it. So
awesome? So you've been
yeah,
busy.
very busy, very busy. So gonna need to go out on a boat with you sometime soon.
Yes, yes. Tomorrow's my anniversary. I'm hoping to go out tomorrow night. We'll see.
Yay. Fun,
Yeah,
fun.
it is. It is. It's a good time. Starting to cool down a little bit, so we'll be fishing, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
No more swimming. I'm afraid that's over for me. Maybe my son will, but that's over for me.
It's always been over for me, so I get you. Well, I'm really excited for our guest today, because I love my true crime, and that I love serial killers. And there was this serial killer in England named Harold Shipman, and Harold Shipman was a doctor, and he killed somewhere north of 250 people as their doctor.
Oh dear.
And nobody knew for like the longest time. And what finally tipped them off was the fact that one of his most recent patients to die, her will was oddly typed out to her doctor to be the beneficiary for everything.
Oh.
And it didn't have her signature the way you would expect it. And so it was actually the will that gave it away that he killed her. And then it uncovered these hundreds of murders that he did on top of it.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So, Becky, it's not normal, right, for you to will all your crap to your doctor after you go? Like, that's not normal, right?
Generally not.
Little red flag?
A little bit of a red flag right there. You know what I mean? For everyone out there who watched Tiger King, right? We all got a good dose of, fake estate planning in that show as well.
So fascinating. Such a fascinating.
Nothing quite like coming up with a random document that says, oh, by the way, if I ever disappear,
Right.
then everything to Carol. But yeah, so yeah.
So not normal. So tell us, Beth, not to get off your doctor subject, that was fascinating, but did Carol Baskin do it or not? We haven't talked about this.
So.
No?
Nope.
You
What do you
don't
think,
think
Becky?
so, really?
I know. This triggers
Sardine
people.
oil comments and everything.
Yeah. I've watched so many killers talk, watched so many documentaries of people talking about like, I did it or I didn't do it. And her energy does not match the energy that I've seen with so many killers.
Right.
So when you watch her specifically talking about his death, a lot of people, they'll go into like too much detail to explain it away, or tons and tons of detail to explain it, every little detail of how they did it. And she's like, I didn't do it. She doesn't explain why she didn't do it. She doesn't do all of the things that these trademark confirmed killers do when telling the story of the person that died. So
Oh.
that's my take, but it will be interesting to see what comes out. I am open to being wrong.
Well, I appreciate the, expert opinion.
Well,
I certainly have not done
I
quite as
do
much
watch a lot of
research
YouTube.
on. I love it. I love it.
But today we're not talking about Carol Baskin, even though she may have had children in a family. I don't remember. No, did she? No.
I don't think so.
Mm.
But
For
I don't
those of
know.
us,
That show is
for
just
those,
so ridiculous that, like every episode it was like, oh, this is the weirdest it can possibly be. And then the next episode, like, wiped that all out. It was like, this is the weirdest it can possibly be. And you're like, oh my God. So yeah, I don't remember a lot of little details like that. That's for sure.
I don't remember either. But if Carol Baskin did, she probably should have talked to you, Becky.
Ooh, no. No.
So you don't want to be the lawyer for the criminals. Got
it. No. Yeah, no, I'll tell you guys a secret. Like I grew up on Law and Order, right? And so I did not want to be an attorney growing up. I thought
Really?
that's what you did, right? I enjoy a good argument. Like, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to do that all day, every day. That's like super stressful and sounds terrible. And so yeah, no, I didn't even want to be an attorney. I wanted to help people. So, the classic like teacher, police officer, doctor, nurse, like all of that was kind of on my radar initially. And then I also really liked fine print. So like, I know it's an
Really
acquired
diving into
taste.
the details and stuff.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I enjoyed reading contracts and just getting into like the language on the back of your ticket stub, or I don't know. It sounds terrible when I say it out loud, but
No,
someone's
it's
got to do that,
fascinating.
right?
So fascinating.
Someone's got to be interested in that, and it turns out that attorneys are one of that group of people that are interested in that. And so once I kind of figured that out, I was like, oh wait, I can like help people and like, read small print and work with contracts and everything. And yeah, so it's been awesome. I like signed up for the LSAT like right after that, and away we went. And man, that's been 10 years ago. When did I graduate? 2011. So yeah, 9 years ago. It's crazy.
So what type of attorney are you?
So I do estate planning primarily, and work with small business owners and nonprofits as well. So primarily what we do on both aspects really is sit down with you to take a good look at, exactly what your assets are, everything you care about, everything you have, what would do a really good inventory of that. And then, what is going to happen if you don't do any other planning, right? What, if you were to pass away tomorrow or be in an accident tomorrow and incapacitated, unable to manage everything, what does that look like? Because I mean, the reality of it is, even if you've done no planning whatsoever, the state has made a plan for you. They know what's going to happen. And so, yeah, sitting down, figuring that out. And then there's something of that you're either going to be like, all right, perfect. Then, I know now exactly how everything's going to go. It makes it really easy. You're confident in your your financial and health, I guess, moving forward. And then, if you don't like that, then we design a plan to change that and figure out how to make it better for you. So
I have about 400 questions right now. But
sure.
The first one is, why, of all the kinds of attorneys that you could have become, why is this the type you chose?
Because I was looking for something kind of transactional. Like I said, I didn't want to be a litigator. I didn't want to go to court ever. Like, I like helping people and, sitting down and figuring out like what makes you tick and how to solve your problems and everything. Like, I just love that. And so I actually when I was first like enrolling in law school, I was really interested in entertainment law, which is very similar. It's essentially just business law, if you will. And so just kind of learning a little bit more about that and everything. And then getting introduced to estate planning and realizing that was kind of the same, and like kind of helping families kind of think of their family unit more as a business also, to get you in line.
I always love that
Yeah.
type of idea. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Okay. So my second question is, you said, as you were talking, you said the state already has a plan for you if you don't have a plan for yourself.
They do. Yeah. So essentially, the state has already decided if you're, let's say, well, let's just start with just if you're in an accident and like in a coma, incapacitated, something in the hospital, who makes medical decisions for you? Who decides whether you get treatment or not? And so, the state goes, like if you're married, your spouse, maybe children, adult children. But if none of them are available, then, we're going up to like parents, siblings, cousins, like trying to find some next of kin to make decisions for you. The same goes with, if you pass away, right? So where does all your stuff go? Who has to figure out how to get into your bank accounts to pay for things, anything like that. Again, the state has already decided, and so that's what's called like intestate succession. And so the state basically says, if you have a surviving spouse, if you have kids, then, to them in some percentages. And then again, just kind of up and over to like find next of kin. Like we've all heard of someone who has received money from long lost Uncle Jimmy that they had never met. And that's how that happens. So
not from another country, but like you've gotten those
Not a
emails,
Nigerian,
right?
Not a Nigerian prince.
Yeah.
Right. I know. Yeah, that check has never come in. I don't understand why. Like he promised me.
Hey, I got a $5,000 check to go be a mystery shopper recently, and I thought, that checks out. No, it doesn't. It was totally a scam. I was like, nobody's going to pay me $5,000 to go check on the money systems at Walmart.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. But how does somebody know that it is legit when they get contacted and they're like, your Uncle Jimmy 4 times removed is leaving you $50,000?
I have some $50,000 that we need to figure out who to give it to. Yeah, I mean, the telltale signs of it being a scam would be, we need all your information, and you just have to send us you have to fund an account with $5,000 first, and just to open the account, and then we'll put all the money in it, right? So yeah, I mean, I say anything that makes your spidey senses tingle, but I realize that, they're very convincing nowadays. And so it's hard to, I hear just all kinds of stories. So I worked at a bank for a while, and we had a gentleman come in who had, if any of you remember, I think they're still doing them, but if either of you remember those like grandchild scams that they were doing, where you're like, your grandchild would call you and be like, don't tell mom and dad, I'm in danger and I need $5,000. And so we had a guy who came in and did that. And like, we didn't even think anything at the time. Like, it didn't even sound fishy necessarily to us when he was kind of telling us, because he was like, I'm just going to help my granddaughter out, and so I don't know. It's hard. So when I say something that makes your spidey senses tingle, I feel like maybe I've seen like more situations like that. So sometimes it may not even, but it doesn't hurt to ask, I think, is the moral of that story. If things are feeling weird, ask a friend.
Right. No kidding, but it's true.
For sure.
But it's true though. I mean, you know, not everybody has a will or a trust, and I'm gonna ask you what the difference is here in just a minute, but like not everybody has that. So there have been times in the past, I've known people that have been contacted and it was legit and they were next of kin or whatever, you know, down the line, and they're, you know, and their person that they received whatever from didn't necessarily have a plan for that. So can you tell us so I hear wills and trusts thrown around all the time. I actually have a trust. We can talk about that a little bit later, because I don't know how good it is. I'm probably going to have to come and see you, have you look it over. But what is the difference and what's the best instrument for families, or should they have both?
Yeah, great question. Absolutely. So if you have a trust, you're still going to have wills. And so basically the difference there is that, you know, I mentioned earlier kind of talking about kind of setting up your family unit as a business. It's easy to see a trust that way, right? So you are like, you're the owners of all your stuff right now. And so then you set up this separate entity that is the trust that now owns all of your stuff. I mean, you still are able, you know, it's all still, you know, yours. So you can put it in, you can take it out, whenever, during your lifetime. But you have these instructions that then are the agreement between, you know, you and the trustees for the benefit of your beneficiaries. So like you're all the same right now, like you're alive. So you're still in charge of all your stuff and you're the beneficiary of everything. But when something happens to you, then, you know, there's already a whole set of instructions on exactly what to do with your stuff. So, you know, if you think of it, another really great analogy is like a red radio flyer wagon that like everybody had back in the day, right? So you have the wagon and you have a tag on it, right? That says everything to do with all your stuff. You put your stuff in the wagon, you take your stuff out. If something happens to you, someone else just picks up the handle and goes along and does everything that they're supposed to do. So the purpose then of also having a will when you do have a trust is that sometimes we don't fund things correctly. So, you know, as you mentioned, you have a trust. And so just as the years go on, your life is changing. You know, maybe you've had more kids, maybe you've moved, maybe you've changed a job. And so you guys have, you know, an outstanding 401k somewhere else, or, you know, just a different life insurance policy. I mean, the law changes, you know, right now, like nobody has to worry about estate taxes because the federal exemption is, you know, $11.58 million per person. So I hope you have to worry about that. But you know, with appropriate planning, you know, even with a much lower exemption, you know, of $2 million, like it was not too long ago, you know, you don't have to pay that amount. So let's see, I'm getting off on a tangent here, but wills versus trust.
Trust and wills, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have both as a family? Is it better to have that, and like? Then my follow-up question is, what are the different parts? Like, what's included in a trust?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a trust is kind of like the biggest unit of planning, if you want to think about it that way. So that would kind of encompass everything below it, right? So you have like trust, wills, and then your powers of attorney, which I'll touch on in a sec. And so then deciding whether to do planning just with wills and powers of attorney and, you know, beneficiary deeds or something along those lines would largely depend just on how many assets you have right now. So like in Arizona, for example, as long as your house is worth less than $100,000, and that's your equity, right? And you have, let's see, personal property that's worth less than $75,000, then you're not going to end up in probate at all. That, you know, we're able to just pass all of that outside of probate, don't have to worry about it. Whereas, you know, if you have assets that are larger than that, then we're definitely want to start talking about making things easier on the back end, because probate is long, it's expensive. We're talking about like 5% of your assets is not an outrageous amount to pay for probate. It can be, over a year that we're looking at. And then also, it's a public process too, so, Beth, liking true crime stuff, getting all those public records and just being able to delve through them. The probate process is exactly the same. So as soon as documents are filed, like anyone can just pull that up and check out what you had and who got your stuff and everything. So
that's scary,
right? So, it opens it up to predators. Is the likelihood of that high? Maybe not, but I think that's going to depend on your exposure. Are you Kim Kardashian? People are going to be much more interested in her estate than, you probably are going to be in my estate, right?
But is there like an entire line of criminals that just focus on going after these people because, like, the beneficiaries?
Yes.
So
like stories of like con men who know of women who just get a big inheritance
and they marry them. Yes, Beth, this is a thing.
Totally.
I have heard that a bunch. Like some young man comes in and what I mean, sweeps her off her feet, and then just because he knows she's got a lot.
And then in my world, he could then kills her, and then he's the beneficiary. But
right, yeah, he has convinced her to change all of his estate planning away from her children, or from like her husband's children, So that going down that rabbit hole for like just a second, that's another one of the reasons that you want to be doing. To be thinking about doing estate planning, because especially when it comes to blended families, right? So like you have your own children, your husband or your spouse has children from another marriage as well. Everybody loves each other right now, but if when you die everything goes to your spouse, like your surviving spouse, are they going to give stuff to your kids? That's Cinderella, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, so many reasons. And we haven't even touched on like just the aspect of protecting your minor children, so here's the big scary question, guys. What happens if, your kids are with a babysitter and you don't come home? Like who does the babysitter call? First of all, do they know what to do? Do they know who is able to take over your children from them? Or are they going to call the police? That's great and all, except for the fact that if your babysitter doesn't actually have legal authority to be with your children, which no one does that for the neighborhood teenager,
Right, exactly.
Like unnecessary for the evening, it seems. But so they're not going to leave your children with the babysitter. They're going to have to figure out what to do with them. CPS gets involved at that point. And I don't think anyone really wants to have CPS involved in their children's lives for a minute, much less a few hours or a couple days, until they can figure out, one, where you are or what's going on with you, and then who to give your kids to. And then worst case, even on top of that, is that they end up in the foster system.
Right. That's super scary. So just going the difference between trust and will, just so that everybody has a good clear idea of this, that all of that, like who gets your kids, when they get them, who's in control of the money for the kids, like all of that is in the trust.
Correct. Aside from the guardian nomination. So that, that one you'll typically find in your will, because most of the planning that we do on that assumes that a guardian needs to be nominated after you have passed away. So that's where you'll typically find it. Another one of the, in speaking of additionally protecting your kids, another one of the things that we do as well is ensure that you have a standalone guardian nomination. So that would go into effect if you were in an accident, let's say, and in a coma, just unable to speak. So your will isn't going to be effective at that point in time. You're alive. So nothing that is said per your will is going to matter at that point in time. So we make sure that you have a standalone guardian nomination. And then that we're also talking about, that we're also talking about temporary guardians. So who are those people, those really close neighbors that can like jump in, your kid's best friends, parents, you know, they can jump in and take care of your kid for however long until your permanent guardian can get there, you know, because a lot of times they don't live in town, right? You know, it's your sister in Boston, or, you know, clients with friends in Canada who are going to take their kids. You know, they're not going to be able to get to Arizona right away. It's going to take them a little bit.
So then do you suggest getting like medical power of attorney or some sort of power of attorney for that particular situation?
Yes. So another thing, so, you know, we're all thinking of estate planning as being, you know, for older people, right? With a bunch of money, who are like about to die. That's kind of what we're socialized into believing, right? But there's actually a whole lot of planning that can and should be done for your kids, right? And that includes, you know, making sure you have those guardians nominated, but then also giving those people at the very least, you know, healthcare and a general power of attorney for your kids so that they have access to be able to do what they're able to do. And then also, let's see, and then the additional planning on top of that for you is then just ensuring that they're going to have access to your money at that point in time, whether that's through a trust or, you know, will planning that happens as well. So yeah, I know it's all a lot to think about.
There's just so many scenarios, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm always like, you die and then you use your will, the end, right?
I know.
And then all of a sudden it's like, here's 14 scenarios that it could actually happen. And I'm like, nope, those are all legit. Like,
right. Yeah, I mean, well, honestly, one of the good things about what we do as well, and what there are a lot of personal family attorneys. I know not everybody who's listening, like, we're all over the states. So, because I'm licensed in Arizona and Colorado, but personal and family attorneys like me who work in the same way are in all 50 states. So, you know, it's easy. Like, I'm able to, you know, help people out and get them a referral to a good person who does this different type of planning as well in any state. So everybody listening knows that.
Now, Katie, you brought up a really interesting question earlier before we even came on here. We're just curious, what was like the craziest scenario that you have seen so far as this type of attorney?
So the craziest one I know of, I wasn't actually mine. So I'll save it. And I'll go into that in a sec, but probably the one that I've seen, it was a little bit just more sad and frustrating. Client came to me, his mom had just passed away. She was from Ohio. And so they had gone to an attorney, spent a large sum of money to get a trust, get everything in place because they knew she was going to die and they thought they had everything ready to go. So she died. And the problem was that the trust hadn't been funded. The attorney hadn't deeded the property into the trust. So, or guided them on how to transfer any of their other assets. So they ended up really with like this big stack of expensive documents, and it didn't do them any good. they still had to go, when they reached out to that law firm again, and they were like, hey, like this didn't happen right. Like now we have to go through probate. What's the deal? And they're like, okay, well, we're happy to take you through that, except we're probably looking at about $9,000. So they did not do that.
That is so insane.
Yeah.
Wow. So,
and honestly, like, that sounds like it's got to be malpractice, right? Like you sell someone a large amount of documents for a large sum of money that then don't work for them. And then they come back to you and you're like, okay, well, now I'm going to charge you 5% of your estate to what it feels like, right, to fix the problem that they created.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it sounds terrible, but that's actually like relatively common, if you will. Just the not really following up at the end. Sorry, guys, I'm like fighting the sun here in the background.
Okay.
I appreciate you sticking with me on my car adventure here. All right.
So speaking of,
that looks better.
There you go. So speaking
of
malpractice and funny stories, so I have to tell you this really quick. You're going to love this one, Beth. So I was pregnant, and only once, and and he's here, 6.5. You might come barging through the door here in a minute. But before we had him, my husband and I decided, okay, we're going to do the trust thing, and maybe we have a will. I don't know. I honestly would have to look at it. I'm assuming, but he kind of handles that stuff, right? And so did the power of attorney and all of that, just not knowing. I was kind of an older pregnant lady, so not knowing what's going to happen. He has medical power of attorney and all that jazz. So we call this attorney that was actually recommended to us, have him come into our office, sit down with him. He goes through the whole thing. Okay, what do you guys want? Puts the trust together, and we pay him. And it wasn't, this is a question for you too. It wasn't that expensive. I don't remember it being super expensive to get that done. Like, obviously not having it done is way more expensive than doing it, but I don't remember it being super outlandish or anything like that. And that was a question that I had, is this kind of thing expensive? But anyway, long story short, put the trust together and some changes happened. So like you said, things change in your life, or, new properties, whatever it is, and we needed to get our trust updated. And so, and have a new LLC drawn up or something like that. And so we gave the guy like $800 or $900 to do this, and never heard from him again. And so, and that was kind of weird, right? And so my husband's calling and all of this stuff. Well, turns out the guy had ended up getting involved with some lady, a girlfriend of his, and was selling meth and doing meth. And this attorney, like, you would never think this, right? And he had quite a good reputation prior to all of this, selling meth, living out of his car, like at this point homeless, when we ended up finding what was going on with him. So so I think I need to have you look over my trust and make sure everything's cool, because I had a meth head write it up.
Yikes.
But, we ended up calling like 3 on Your Side, Rick Cherry, whatever news channel he is. And we ended up going on the news, and we shared who this was, and he was not, available for comment, of course. But I just wanted to share this information with the world, because, I don't know how many other people that he said, oh yeah, I'll do an LLC for you, and ended up keeping their money.
Yikes. I know.
Yeah.
No,
you don't do that.
We strive to not take money from you and then not give you what you have paid for.
Pretty solid.
Right?
Oh man. Yeah. Although, so you were touching a little bit on price there. And that's an excellent question, because it's going to range all over the place, right? You can do estate planning for $20 yourself online, or free even online. You could pay anywhere from, $400 to $10,000 for estate planning from an attorney, or, a licensed document preparer or anything. And ultimately, a document's a document. So if it's designed to work the right way, and then wherever you got it, it honestly doesn't matter. And so, which is sounds probably weird coming from an attorney, but it's true. They're simply documents. What's different is crafting them to make sure that they're going to work in your scenario, right? You know, anyone can download a living trust, but do you understand what that means? And then like why there are certain clauses there, you know? But oh, so anyway, this kind of brings me actually back to the craziest story that's not mine, but that I heard of. And it talks about the importance of, if you know that someone in your family is going to be attached to something, it's a good idea. And with, you know, wills and trusts alike, you generally have the option to like leave kind of a written memorandum. So like my jewelry to my daughter, my pearls to my husband, my son's wife, you know, whatever it is, artwork, anything that's not like money or property, you can transfer this way. So anyway, there was this family, mom died and there were two daughters, and mom had a Tweety bird, just a little plastic, like not even big, guys, little tiny plastic Tweety bird that both girls wanted. So this is like a $3.99 toy, $3.99 toy. Fighting tooth and nail, court battle, like thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars in arguing over a Tweety bird, that finally the attorney was like, okay, so here's what's going to happen. I'm going to go get another, like he sourced an identical Tweety bird. He was like going to pay someone to like scuff it up the same way and everything. And he's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put him in a box. We're going to shake him up. And then we're going to give him to you guys. And they still wouldn't do it. They were still fighting like tens of thousands of dollars over a small plastic Tweety bird.
So who ended up getting it? Anyone?
I don't remember who exactly got it. I don't even know how you resolve that at that point. You're just throwing money after principal, you know, and that never wins.
That is crazy. How silly. Right? I mean, come on.
I mean, and it's because you just don't know what people get attached to, right? I mean, I think we all probably, the three of us all probably have an example of something small at your parents' house that doesn't mean anything to anybody else, but like if you had it, it would mean something to you, you know?
Yeah.
So like I get it, but at the same time you're like, that is crazy.
That is crazy. So back to the price question, does it depend on the size of your estate, or is it how many documents you have, or like things like I had power of attorney and I had, you know, excuse me, only one property at the time, but sure. We've ended up adding, you know, other properties as we've collected them over the years. But what determines cost?
Yeah, absolutely. At least in my firm, we do everything on a completely flat fee basis. So, you know, I mean, you're going to know exactly what you're paying, like upfront. It's a fee that you have even chosen as we're going through. So, you know, in that first initial meeting, at least, you know, for us, what we're doing is we're sitting down, going through all your assets, figuring out how you would want to change that. And then, you know, for like a trust package, we'll say, you know, you would be at a certain level. And then there are kind of opportunities, and without getting like too in the weeds on this, there are opportunities to build in additional protection at certain levels. And so, you know, that's going to bump up your price a little bit. But this is all something that, you know, we're talking about right at the very beginning. And, you know, again, that you're choosing. So it's not necessarily, it doesn't totally correlate with just having more assets, but that it's a rough correlation there, because it really is more about the protection that you would want at the death. So if we're planning for a couple, right? So at the protection you would want at the death of the first of you. So, you know, to protect from like remarriage and giving all your assets to somebody other than your children. And then how much protection you want to build in for your children during their lifetimes. You know, do you how much do you want to protect them from creditors and divorce and bankruptcy and things like that. So
yeah, so I have a question on what you were just saying. My mother-in-law, she married a widower, and he had an irrevocable trust with his wife that had died.
oh, okay.
And so my mother-in-law was selling her house to go live with, her new husband. But it was set up so that if he dies, then she's just like out on the street, basically. Right. So they ended up selling both of their houses and buying a new one together.
Oh, okay.
To be able to have, to have a solution. And so I'm curious, like, if that is the situation, like, let's suppose he had died, is she just like out on the street the second the kids decide that they don't want to keep this house or something?
Potentially. Yeah.
It's like so many scenarios that you just never would think of. And like, you also think of like, okay, so I'm going to set up this irrevocable trust to protect my kids. And then at the same time, you're like, okay, so then I'm going to like put my spouse's new partner in that situation. Anyway, I find it so fascinating.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, and honestly, it's about, what your priorities are, right? So, I mean, while you're alive, like your priority is not your spouse's, new, their new spouse after you die. Like, your priority is your kids and making sure that everything's okay for them. And yes, like even with that, I mean, so that it sounds like what they had was, something that has that's the additional level of protection at the survivor's spouse level that I was touching on. And it's to make sure, obviously, that you have something left for your kids. But, I mean, as you just described, there are ways around it because, as we go along, the family likes stepmom. The family wants to provide for stepmom. And so, then again, that's a part of keeping in touch with, your estate planning attorney and, seeing it as more of like a personal family attorney relationship. Because in that situation, you're like, okay, well, this is what we did because this is what we thought back here. But now we want to change it. And you kind of know our situation. You've been working with us for several years. Like, how do we do it best? So, yeah. There are always ways around it, but, you're planning, if you think about it, you're planning for you right now, not, you hope that your spouse is happily married after the fact, right? If something happens to you young.
Yeah,
but
of course.
You're not really planning for her.
Right. But it sounds like there's a lot of different things to think about. And if somebody, were to throw the $20 at it and go estate plan on their own, like you mentioned, they might be missing and leaving out a lot of things that your experience would help them, help them along and help them to add to it. So I know that you're only in Arizona and Colorado, but you had mentioned that estate planners throughout the entire country. So if somebody were to contact you and they were to be in a different state, would you be able to get them connected?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. So what's the best way to reach out to you? I mean, I've got to do it because I need to come and see you and make sure, Meth Head did everything right. And of course there are some changes because it's been a couple of years anyway. So we should do this anyway. But what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the website is eastonlawpllc.com. And then you can also reach out to me directly at Rebecca at Easton Law PLLC. I'll spell that all out, just REBECCA at EASTONLAWPLLC.com. So yeah, you can reach me directly by email. You can reach us by phone at 480-999-4455. Let's see, what do we get there? Website, email, phone number.
Smoke
work.
signals. What do they call those? Carrier pigeon.
Carrier pigeon.
She does it all, man. She does it all. So
Yeah.
awesome.
And also, I mean, on Facebook too, you know, so at Easton Law PLLC on Facebook, you can reach us as well. So
awesome. And I tagged that page in the caption here, so it should be just easy to click. Well, Becky, thank you so much for being with us today. You were amazing.
oh, this was fun. Thanks for I'm glad I could jump on and be with you guys. And I mean, you're right. There's like so many scenarios and so much to talk about. And the one thing, I mean, again, about, you know, sitting down and talking with us is that you're not going to pay anything more than that. You're not going to pay for something that you don't feel is worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you're only going to pay for something that you feel is cheaper now than the headache that's going to happen later if you don't do it, you know?
Amen.
So,
Yeah. Even if it's not your headache, it's going to be somebody that you love's headache, and
yeah.
might as well get that cleared up front. No, I totally agree. Well, Beth, so this episode is episode 15. We didn't even say that at the beginning. So episode 15 of season 3, we're going to take a little bit of a break after this one for a couple of weeks, and we'll be back with season 4. But before we do that, Beth, what do we want people to do for us? Pretty please.
So we want you guys to go to your favorite podcasting platform and rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast and download the episodes. Don't just listen to the episodes, download them, because the downloads are what they actually count. And I have a child who might start screaming, so I'm going to ask if you can tell everybody about why we need people to do that.
Well, aside from we just want the real news to get out to the real people, and we are passionate about our mamas, especially at MOMnation, but we are working on this really cool project that we call the MOMmune project. Becky, you're going to love this. This is for moms that are transitioning into becoming single mothers. And you know what? You might even I'll talk with you about it, because you may even play an awesome part if you'd like to join us. But this is basically like, you know, single moms, they get a lot thrown at them. They're maybe going through a messy divorce. They may have to move. Maybe they have to get a job and didn't previously have one. Maybe they were stay at home and now they have to be the breadwinner for the family. There's just so much wrapped up in becoming a single mom that it can be extraordinarily overwhelming. So our project is to build a resource where it's just a one-stop shop, and whomever is transitioning into that single motherhood mode can plug in. And maybe they need some estate planning services. Maybe they need some mental health services. Maybe they're addicted and they need some addiction services. Maybe they just need a community, MOMmune, it's kind of like commune. Okay. Maybe they just need a community where they can be like, hey, Beth, I got to work tonight. Do you mind watching, you know, my kid? And I will. I love your Miss Beth apron. I just saw that. That was awesome. Sorry, I got interrupted because, you know, awesomeness. But let's just say, you know, I need to work tonight. Beth, can you watch my kid tonight? And then I'll do the same for you tomorrow night, kind of thing. So really just looking to build a community and resources for moms that are transitioning. We would love anybody's help that wants to help us.
What a cool idea. I really love that. Yeah, let me know. And I wanted to throw out one other just quick offer for anyone who's listening, who wants to reach out and schedule some time with us as well. And this, what you're filling out here, what I'm going to talk about here, even if you're not in Arizona or Colorado, feel free to fill out the information, and then that will, you know, still trigger us to be able to chat and for me to be able to get you to the right, to an attorney in your state. But that is just, it's a bit.ly link. So bit.ly/ELPLLC estate planning. And I'll get you the link so we can post that and everything. And that'll just be a little brief questionnaire about you guys. And then we can talk about how, you know, we can sit down and figure out what exactly we can help you out with. Oh, and also, and that's what I was gonna say, the offer for your people, I'm like squirreling seriously here. But an offer, so the family well planning session is usually $750 with me, because it's a 2-hour working session, but I'll waive that for your listeners.
Awesome.
So we'll get that perfectly complimentary for any of your listeners who want to let me know that they heard me talking to you guys on here. So
You are amazing. Thank you. Let's reconnect about MOMmune, and then whatever links or offers or whatever that you want to put out there for our members and our listeners, please feel free to comment them on the video and shoot them over to me, and I'll throw them in the show notes for the podcast platforms.
I like it.
All right.
Thank you so much, Becky. That was so much good information. Jack is gonna slam my laptop shut here in just a second. But
Hi, Jack.
good episode.
All right, guys. Bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.